So last Thursday, the Huskies played Stanford and they lost. They lost 75 to 91. And then on Saturday, they played Cal and they lost 78 to 84. So a little bit closer, but overall last week they went 0 and 2. Their overall record is now 1 and 9 and 0 and 5 in conference, so last in the Pac-12. Not good, not good at all. So in both these games, though, a little positive is UW showed a little bit of kind of effort, a little bit of hustle, and just they didn't really give up in either of the games. That's really the one positive that I could actually take from the games. So, especially with the Cal game, they looked solid throughout it, really. Their offense finally clicked. But then a caveat is Cal is kind of the second worst team in the Pac 12. I mean, before the game against Washington, Cal hadn't yet won a game in the Pac 12. So you can't really look to that as that great of a performance. But overall, the Huskies showed a lot of heart in the game. But now getting more into the first game of last week, which was against Stanford. Um, they it was the same old. Really, their offense struggled quite a bit, and at the end of the first half, they were down 21 to 38. The one positive, really, from the first half was Jamal Bay. He had a very nice half shooting in the first half. He shot 3 for 5 from distance. He had 9 points. And one of the key points I mentioned in my last show was kind of getting another guy to perform well alongside of Green. And Bay did just that for the first half. However, Green didn't have a very good game. Neither did Sahonis in the first half. Those two each shot 2 for 7 and had 5 points. So Bay came through, but this was an instant where Green had one of his off nights. Now, one of the critiques of the Huskies so far has been their defense, and it's been warranted. They've allowed a lot of points, but they've also had a lot of pressure put up against them with their offense struggling so much. But for the Stanford game, at least for the first 12 minutes, just taking that into account, the Husky defense, they played solid. They were trying everything they could to just slow down Stanford and keep the game within reach. But the offense for UW just couldn't get anything going. In the first 12 minutes of the game, the Huskies defense only allowed 17 points, but then the offense couldn't do anything. The offense went scoreless for about the first 6 minutes of the actual game. I mean, that's a lot to ask your defense to kind of keep your team within reach when your offense can't score, can't do anything. So the score went from 5 to 17 to then 7 to 27 in a matter of just 2 or 3 minutes. The UW's offense finally broke, and it was a 20-point game all of a sudden. Like I said before, UW went scoreless for over 5 minutes. A defense can't be asked to really stop the other team every single possession when your offense can't score. I mean, in the first 10 minutes of the game, the Huskies defense, they forced 7 turnovers. So they were doing their job, limiting Stanford's offensive possessions. And one of my key points from last week I mentioned again is for the Huskies defense to get steals, get the Husky offense extra points, and get them moving fast. Now, yes, the Huskies had 7 turnovers, or the Huskies defense forced 7 Stanford turnovers, but the turnovers often weren't fast break opportunities. A lot of them were offensive charges, so kind of dead ball turnovers, and then balls that just got thrown out of bounds by Stanford. Not fast break opportunities, which is what UW needs to get easy points. Now, the one fast break opportunity that they really had that first half was with Quade Green getting a steal, and he ran it down, but he was kind of pressured from behind. He kind of forced the layup, didn't focus all the way on it, and he missed. So he really ruined that one fast break opportunity that the Huskies had. And when your team is really dead in the water on offense, you need those fast break points because their half court offense was, as it had been for the first 10 or first 8 games of the season, atrocious. I mean, they were 1 for 12 from behind the arc for the first 12 minutes of play. So You could look at it as shot selection, shooting these three-pointers, but I think it's more of an offensive game plan issue with the shots that the Huskies were taking. They were open. I mean, the three-pointers often there was a defender late closing or just absolutely uncovered. But the issue with this and them taking all those threes is they know that that's been their weak point really all year long. I mean, they were shooting 24% from behind the arc going into this game. So they know that's not their strong point, yet they kept shooting over and over again these three-pointers. Four of the Huskies' first shots on the game were three-pointers. Their one shot to open the game that wasn't a three-pointer, it was the first shot by Eric Stevenson. It was kind of a pull-up jumper that missed. So they opened 0 for 5 from the field. On their first 9 possessions offensively, they were scoreless because they were 0 for 5, and then they had 4 turnovers as well in their first 9 possessions. And the first shot that they actually made, it was a layup, an easy inside shot. It was by Nate Roberts. So they were then down 2 for 12, 2 to 12, 14 minutes left in the first half. This Huskies basketball team has to try and get into the paint more to open up games. Get an easy bucket or two inside, and they'll see the ball go in the net, get a free throw opportunities, an easy shot there. Instead, this over and over again, the Husky players' first shots are these three-pointers, which they miss. Seeing the ball go in the net early could do wonders for these players' confidence. I mean, just pulling an example of one of these players, Hamir Wright, for example. So against Stanford, he missed his first three-point shot. It was a good shot selection. It was a wide open shot, wide open three-pointer. He then proceeded in the next 2-3 minutes. He had another 2 opportunities for wide open three-pointers. He chose to just pass the ball. He hesitated and then passed the ball. And I can't say for certain why this was, but in the back of his mind, he clearly wasn't comfortable taking the three-pointer. And I don't blame him, he came into the game shooting 16% from three. So he then watched as his first shot missed. He's got no confidence in his three-point shot. Really, no Husky basketball player has confidence in their three-point shot. That's why they've got to try and get in the paint more. Now, the lone bright spot I kind of touched on earlier was Jamal Bay knocking down a few three-pointers with Quade Green finding him and just getting him open shots that he then hit and had confidence. Unfortunately for him, he kind of got cold in the second half, and he went 3 for 7 from three. He didn't make a three in the second half, finished with 15 points. Now, as we transition talking about the second half of this game here, it was kind of the opposite a little bit, with the Huskies offense actually looking good at some points. Now, not for the whole second half, but they had these bursts. They had these little spurts of offense where they showed hope. And right off the start, they showed it with Sahonis. He opened the half hitting 2 straight threes. Then Green hit 3 straight pull-up jumpers, and he was feeling confident. The Husky offense was feeling confident. The Husky defense, however, had no confidence. It seemed like almost lost hope. So starting the second half, like I said before, the score was 21-38. So it was a 17-point differential. Now, after this little 4-minute explosion, I guess you could say, by the Husky offense, the score was 34-50, so a 16-point differential. In that best offensive sequence, maybe of the year the Huskies had, it was still a 16-point difference because the Stanford offense beat the Husky defense nearly every possession to open that second half. Now, what I mentioned before was the Huskies showed fight. And even with this, they still weren't done. They had another explosion on offense later on, kind of led by Javon Brooks, who I haven't really mentioned, but he's kind of evolved into having a bigger role on this team in recent games, and I'll talk about him later on as well. He kind of got it going with a nice, tough and-one layup. He unfortunately missed the free throw, but then the next possession down, he hit a tough fadeaway shot. And next thing you know, the Husky defense gets a couple stops. They get a couple steals. Cole Bajema had a real nice save on a ball going out of bounds. And next thing you know, the Huskies have the momentum. They are now only down 46-57. And something weird happens, something I wouldn't have expected. Mike Hopkins, the Huskies head coach, chooses to call a timeout, which I found odd as, like I said, the Huskies had the momentum. They were feeling nice on offense. Stanford was kind of winded. You want to keep the pressure up. Yet Hopkins chooses to call a timeout, and it was just unfortunately it was just under 12 minutes left in the second half. So it goes to then the official TV timeout. And so now these Husky players who were feeling it on offense get to just sit down on the bench for four or so minutes. And when they return to the court, they're in their old form. They're in their form they'd been in all the previous games where they can't make anything. I mean, to open up the Huskies, get a nice layup opportunity, Sahonis just missed. That would have cut it to 9. And now, a few minutes later, the lead's all the way up to 48-71. So it's over a 20-point game when it was an 11-point game with a chance to cut it to 9. But as I said before, the theme is the Huskies keep coming back, keep showing something on offense, but they just can't sustain it. They cut the lead to 14 with 6.5 minutes to go. So this team can have fight. But in the end, the Huskies just couldn't quite get over the double-digit difference and couldn't quite pressure Stanford enough on defense to get the victory.